Watching 60 Minutes on Sunday night with Scott Pelley doing his normal, calm speaking slam of President Trump and everything that he's trying to do for this country reminded me of growing up as a child and how respected the organization was. In reality, from the time of Mike Wallace, Chrissy's dad, it has always been a sham. It's just been a better operated sham. Watching 60 Minutes today gives insight into the latest leftist strategy and tactics they think will give them and theirs unlimited power back. A tell is described as an inadvertent behavior or mannerism that betrays a poker player's true thoughts, intentions, or emotions. In poker, a change in a player's behavior or demeanor that give clues to that player's assessment of their hand. We used to view the show as enlightening as a child because it made you feel like you were getting the scoop, the truth about some nefarious character doing their evil deeds. Mike Wallace was famous for the ambush interview, appearing at someone's home or business, shoving a camera and microphone in their face unexpectedly. They always looked guilty, even if they weren't. 60 Minutes interviewers appeared to be real investigative news reporters. That was before the competition, which is each and every one of us with our smartphones, exposing them by doing real unbiased investigations without trying to sway the listener by deceiving them. This last episode's theme was clearly CCP virus is President Trump's fault, and he caused all of the 200,000 plus deaths. It's not going away, and everyone should be scared of everything that President Trump supports. Anyone is better than President Trump, so we should vote for dementia Joe Biden. Even though the science and the truth in their own numbers show that Trump saved more than 1.8 million lives based on the Imperial College's Neil Ferguson's original 2.5 million death estimate from the COVID CCP Wuhan virus.
The president on Wednesday emerged from the White House hotspot to announce what he called a cure for COVID-19. With 23 days before the election, Mr. Trump said he became aware of the cure after ordering his doctors to give him an experimental drug. His idea, he said. No one but President Trump is claiming a cure for COVID-19.
Listen to Scott Pelley's Misleading by Innuendo. 60 Minutes is based on innuendo. Innuendo is defined as an oblique allusion, a hint, an insinuation. President Trump emerged from the White House hotspot. What does hotspot mean? That means it's a degrading mention of the place where President Trump lives and operates his business, which is the business of the United States. And this hotspot emerged from, this is to counter the fact that Joe Biden never leaves his basement. He's been forced out in the last 23 days leading up to the election on November 3rd. Pelley goes on and says what he called a cure for the COVID-19. Why can't you say the CCP Wuhan virus? Well, we know because you are owned by the Chinese Communist Party. He mentions that it's 23 days before the election, and he misleads by innuendo again that that's the only reason that he's saying that he's got the cure, when in reality, he said it was a cure for him. Then Pelley goes on and says, President Trump became aware of it after he ordered his doctors to give him an experimental drug. He became aware of it by his own words? That makes no sense. He became aware of something after he ordered it? Next, Pelley goes on and says, no one except President Trump is claiming a cure for COVID-19. What President Trump was saying, and you know this, Scott Pelley, and the rest of the producers and directors of your narrative on 60 Minutes, you know that he says that he was cured of it because he was. He now has the antibodies because he went through the CCP virus infection, and he's come out stronger on the other side.
It's a cure. For me, I walked in, I didn't feel good. A short 24 hours later, I was feeling great.
How nice would it be if 60 Minutes was sympathetic, or at least fair, to President Trump and everything that he has been through and everything that he is trying to do for the country? Instead of this negative slant, this constant negativity about everything that President Trump is doing, as if he is some nefarious character. When will they give him the benefit of the doubt and say, yes, President Trump, you have accomplished one thing? When we know that President Trump has accomplished many things by getting government out of the way of the individual, restoring liberty. If only they would stop lying about President Trump at every turn, our country could begin to heal and restore us to a nation of common goals for each individual to be able to accomplish their God-given right instead of constant division.
It's a cure. For me, I walked in, I didn't feel good. A short 24 hours later, I was feeling great. I wanted to get
It
out of
was
the hospital.
antibody therapy from Regeneron Pharmaceuticals that Mr. Trump called a cure. But the facts are these. The president said this past week that we shouldn't be afraid of the virus. Is it clear that the monoclonal antibodies are safe?
In general, monoclonal antibody therapies for cancer, inflammation, and other diseases have been quite safe.
We don't know why Mr. Trump settled on the Regeneron antibody therapy as the one to call a cure. It may be worth noting that in his 2017 financial disclosure form, Regeneron is listed as a stock he received profits from. But Regeneron was not listed in his 2020 disclosure.
Here we have Scott Pelley, you propagandists, sowing seeds of doubt without evidence into President Trump's motivation.
How long will it be before a person contracts COVID, they go to their doctor, they get a prescription, and they go home?
I think that could happen within the next year or two. I think that day is inevitable. I think it's also inevitable that we will have a vaccine.
President Trump is often directionally correct, but imprecise in his language. And here we have 60 Minutes trying to do nothing but a hit piece, sprinkling in little fairness quotients, which shows that Trump's facts are correct. When President Trump said that it was a cure for him, which leads the intelligent person to say, well, if it's a cure for him, why couldn't it be a cure for me? These scientists that they chose to interview are saying that, yes, President Trump is correct. Even though they don't say that President Trump has called for it, he says that there's going to be a vaccine by the end of the year. Again, directionally correct. It might not be by December 31st, but we will have a vaccine. We will have a therapeutic. We will have a quote-unquote cure, which means it's like HIV, where it's no longer a death sentence.
Whatever drugs are developed may not work long. The virus mutates constantly. Dr. Ho told us he has never seen the world's labs dedicate themselves to a single disease as they have for COVID-19.
Again, here is President Trump working under his project called Warp Speed to get public-private cooperation to develop a vaccine, a cure, a therapeutic, so that people don't die, so that the American citizens, left and right, President Trump doesn't care. He wants to eradicate this. He does not want people to suffer. But 60 Minutes, they're trying to make it sound so terrible. Oh, the virus is changing. It's never going to be forever. When in reality, the human body develops antibodies so that when the virus today comes back in a slightly different form, your T cells, your cytokines, you're able to attack the new virus stronger than if you never had anything at all.
But every doctor we asked answered this question the same way. Would you rather have a mask or a vaccine?
A mask.
All this attention is being paid to vaccines, billions of dollars invested, and you'd rather have a mask. Why?
With our social distancing, wearing of the mask, the data is already showing that it's been effective. It's, cost savings, and it's effective, and it can go a long way.
This is Dr. Brennan, who says, this is Dr. Brennan, virtue signaling about masks yet again. She is an MD. COVID-19 particles are less than 0.1 microns in size, generally around 0.03. They are tiny. And what Dr. Brennan says, cost savings, effective, and go a long way. Go a long way to what? It goes a long way to keeping people in compliance with moronic policies dictated without evidence that this is going to save you. What it really does is it shows the government, these government bureaucrats, who is obeying and who isn't. It's easy to identify who is drinking their Kool-Aid and who they need to whip into shape. Here's a great example from the YouTubes, how your brain can work if you are not saturated with their propaganda. This is a medical doctor that shows in common sense, language, and demonstration why masks are ridiculous to fight the CCP Wuhan virus.
Let's cut to the chase and take a look at an ordinary surgical mask, and I'm using a vape. As you can see, that vape, which has aerosols the same size as COVID-19 or larger, goes through and around a surgical mask. Now, if we take a cup mask and have a good look at it, here we go. Notice it goes right through the mask easily and goes in every direction. The aerosol is not affected by the mask in any material. Now we look at a surgical mask with a foam strip to protect above and keep my glasses from fogging. Lo and behold, the aerosols go all around it. Has no effect on me spreading aerosols to you. Now a cloth mask I borrowed from my wife. Once again, here we go. Boom, straight through and around. It has no effect on the spread of aerosols. They go everywhere. And then I went and bought a guard mask with a high efficiency filter material. That one, here we go. Watch for it. Through and around. It had no effect on the vape aerosol, which remember is the same size or larger.
Even if these face masks, these face diapers, were effective enough to filter out the particles, these tiny particles, people cannot replace them like a surgical doctor does inside the operating room. They get dirty, they reuse them, they touch them, they put bacteria on them, which causes other injuries to the human system. If the virus is on the mask because you've breathed it in, you breathe it out, it gets contaminated. If you don't replace it, what happens to it? Somebody else touches it. You put it on your countertop. Somebody else picks it up.
What did your colleagues here learn from treating you?
One of the things I've learned, they learned, is not to give up. What I say to the medical college is learn resilience, maintain physical strength and your cognition. Think, problem solve. It's not woe is me, but okay, how can I do it better the next time? And we can do it. There's strength in this community. There's strength in the world around us. Look at that strength and build on it.
60 Minutes can't get away from the facts that Trump is actually doing a great job. Saved over 1 million people from getting this CCP virus and from getting sick and dying from this CCP virus. At the end, we've got this Dr. Pruden who had the CCP virus in the early days, before they knew anything, before Trump and his administration made adjustments. At first, everybody was the ventilator guy. Everybody thought that you get on a ventilator and that's going to save you, when in reality, ventilators were doing more damage than good. This guy lost 80 pounds. And if you look at him now, he's not a big guy, but he's not an emaciated guy, which tells you he was in the vulnerable class. He's clearly an older gentleman, and if he lost 80 pounds and looks the way he does now, he must have been obese. So he had comorbidities. He had pre-existing conditions which make it more likely that you're going to suffer from the ill effects of this virus. If he was younger, and if he wasn't obese, and if he had heart disease or whatever else we don't know, his immune system would have been healthy and would have fought it off, like most people. An objective observer of this show would have to ask, what is the purpose of tonight's episode? The only thing that you can come up with, if you're going to use your head for more than a hat rack, is to say, Trump is bad, Trump is evil, Trump doesn't know what he's doing, Trump must be removed from office. We already know most of the facts about how this virus attacks the body. We know that the monoclonal therapeutics regimen works. It's been used for more than 2 decades for cancer, diabetes, and other ailments. Why did 60 Minutes do this report? It says it all right at the beginning. Trump is bad, without evidence. All these negative terms about President Trump. Come on, 60 Minutes. Just try to be fair. Try to be a healing organization instead of a demolition squad for the country. As always, keep your eyes and ears open, trust your instincts, and do not be afraid to speak up for your rights. Never bend the knee. Jimbo John Galt on Parler, Twitter, iTunes, and YouTube, or check us out at jimbojohngalt.com.